I've been feeling a little existential lately, wondering what my place in the world is. I'm certain it has nothing to do with the current political climate. While most sought remedy in things like drugs, alcohol, and online political discourse, I thought what better way to remedy my woes than Casshern Sins and some drugs. A show that attempts to answer not only these questions, but a few others along the way. Now, I'm no Gene Shalit, but on this installation of Indifferent Take, I'll be examining the story, characters, and themes present in Casshern Sins, an anime about the collapse of society. Our story begins with our protagonist having a psychotic break in the middle of nowhere. Obviously, that's Casshern. He has these strange, traumatic memories that are foreign and vague to him for all of about 3 minutes before this broken record shows up. This is Liuze, and her purpose is to follow Casshern around and occasionally remind him of what a piece of shit he is, his life coach in a sense. Liuze basically tells Casshern that the ruined state of the world is entirely his fault because he made the mistake of murdering Luna, or the sun named Moon. Two names you'll be absolutely disgusted by after 24 episodes of this. We also meet Ringo and Oji, an old robot man and his robot granddaughter. One of the strangest things I've noticed about the world of Casshern Sins is that the line between what classifies as a robot and what classifies as a human is basically non-existent. I'm actually pretty sure there's only one human we really see in the show, and he dies in the same episode he's introduced. Some robots look like people, some look like cyborgs, and others look like, well, robots. It's a total free-for-all. One thing that helped me to differentiate is that the more humanoid robots tend to be a little more three-dimensional, and the clanker-looking robots are just pathetically weak and stupid or comically evil. Seems discriminatory, but who am I to talk? I just said the C word. Back to these two. The older one, Oji, is a generally subdued and slightly cynical character, and Ringo, while a kind and considerate young robot, is someone that needs a lot less screen time. I don't mind her character in a vacuum, but she just has a habit of yapping any ounce of subtlety or eloquence away from any scene she's in. And you'll see more of what I'm talking about later. Our first adventure takes us to the village of robots quietly accepting their fate and trying to find meaning in what little time is left of their lives. We also meet Frender, Casshern's boy since the 70s. And he's hanging out with this robot couple whose love is apparently an affront to all clankers in the vicinity. Okay, so from now on, these are robots and these are clankers. Being a robot doesn't make you a clanker. Frender teams up with Casshern to do some gymnastics to kill these guys. Alright, while this is going on, we're gonna relay back to Liuze earlier and provide a bit of lore. Casshern killed Luna and started the ruin. We know this. But apparently there's a rumor going around that by consuming Casshern, one could stop the ruin completely and even grant themselves immortality. So, as you can imagine, a lot of cats are after our protagonist for this seemingly stupid reason. So this is like the first thing that stood out to me because robots pretty famously don't eat, and building a digestive system for a robot seems redundant and complicated and time-consuming. So I'm not really sure how this rumor even began in the first place or why so many robots believe it. Are they stupid? They might be, because immediately after learning this, they all decide to bum rush Casshern, the guy who, not 5 minutes ago, decimated an entire fleet of killer robots. So naturally, Casshern blacks out and makes very short work of them. Barely an inconvenience, really. And it wouldn't be Casshern Sins if he didn't get all sad about it afterwards and have Liuze talk a bunch of shit to him. This is all your fault, Casshern. You killed the sun named Moon, Casshern. Your penis is little. You know, her usual bile. Mind you, this whole commune gets slaughtered and Frender is nowhere to be seen. Okay? I'm just thinking he might have played a pretty pivotal role in their survival or whatever, but all this to say, the second episode really sets the tone for the rest of the show. A bit of a medium point for what to expect going forward. So in our next episode, we get our only human guy. We see him wandering alone in the beginning of the episode, and, he travels with Casshern for a little bit until he eventually goes off by himself because he's suffering from like a terminal illness. He dies, but while he's dying, Liuze comforts him as he reflects on his isolated existence. A life spent running from danger and to the nearest resources. An obsolete life form on a planet that's ultimately indifferent to his existence. Never truly living, but always inexplicably chasing life. Completely alone until finding the comfort of connection in his very last moments. Rest in peace, you. I honestly can't remember Buddy's name for the life of me, but he dies in the same episode he's introduced, so moving on. We have a couple episodic adventures involving this chick. Alright, that's enough. I don't really care to get into her and Louise stroking her hate boner for Casshern. We meet Dio no Brando and Lada's fine self.
Such a bad bitch though.
Oh, Dio also hates Casshern, but for jealousy reasons. It's actually kind of noble. And then moving forward, we're finally on to our first good episode, or what I consider to be the first good episode, The Woman of the Tall Tower. So The Woman of the Tall Tower is one of those episodes that really tackles the theme of hope and despair. We meet Liz Bell, a little on the nose, a woman who's made it her life's work to build the tallest tower visible for miles and place atop it a big-ass bell. Her reason? She wants the bell to ring as far as possible in order to remind the denizens of the waste that there still is beauty in the ruin, hope in the despair, a flourish, and a spoil. And while the message is simple, the way it's conveyed is what makes it significant to me. Lizbel's passion ties in with Casshern's quest to find his own purpose. Up to this point in the story, Casshern only really knows that he's basically responsible for the biggest source of misery present in the world as he comes to know it. And much like other ruined citizens, unfortunately, Lizbel also wants Casshern's sacrifice. But unlike the other citizens, she doesn't want to eat him. She wants him to make the bell, which I'm not sure would work out from like a resources and logistics standpoint. I mean, Casshern himself looks like he's no more than like $1.25 wet, and is seemingly mostly flesh, or some flesh imitating carbon alloy. I'm not really sure. I don't know. But even after all this, Casshern considers his proposition as a way to atone for his sins, because up to this point, the only other interaction he's had with any other individual is basically... So needless to say, he actually considers it for a second before ultimately deciding that he does have a reason to keep going and that there are too many questions left unanswered. Lizbel ultimately fails, but gains a rejuvenated passion for building a new bell tower to provide the ruins of the waste with even a modicum of beauty. And honestly, that's as good a reason as any to keep going, for any person. Great episode, one of my personal favorites. Blue ribbon, moving on. This girl sings songs that I heard in a meme once, I think. How does it take to find a way out? This girl's really into flowers and was so traumatized by Luna's death, she just went full nonverbal. Luna's bodyguard gets bodied by Dio and Leda, but to be fair, they did jump buddy. So, we finally meet some side characters with a half a sense of a moral compass. Even that's generous because it's mostly just this guy. We never see him again. Finally, we can move on to another good episode. Maybe even the best episode in the entire series. Turn the Time, Live to Color. Nothing I'm capable of uttering can really do this episode justice, so I'm really just going to be doing some inferring here. Okay, so our focus character for this episode is Margot, a resident of a desolate city filled with comically bitter and clinically depressed robots. What sets this city apart from literally every other city we come across in the series is that this city has a robust history of its kings painting the city to their preferred color, and Margot shows Casshern the garish layers hidden under the drab colors that now cover the landscape. Centuries of kingdoms and cultures come and gone with a multitude of colors displaying every era, only to be cut off by a deep black coat, a coat of paint from the regime of the creature responsible for destroying the human race, Breaking Boss. Who's Breaking Boss? All in due time, my sweet cherub. All in due time. But upon seeing this initially, Margot makes it his mission to paint the city his own color, to signify his own empire and the age of ruin. Naturally, some evil-ass robots take notice of this and beat him for ever even giving a shit. After that, Casshern shows up and handles business, like he do, before Margot leaves Casshern with one dying request. To be painted along with the city he had grown so fond of, to become part of its history, to turn the time lived to color. Oh my god, bro, they were fucking cooking with this episode. You see, a lot of the episodes try to give you this sense of desolation and woe, but this one really nails it. No other even comes close to capturing the essence of this episode right here. Besides Woman in the Tall Tower, kind of. And I really can't believe this is buried in the middle. If you don't end up watching the whole series, at least try to watch this episode. It's worth it. Oh my god. Oh my ass cheeks. Oh. Alright, now, as I'm sure you've deduced, the story quality of the last few episodes varies quite greatly. Some are decent, some are forgettable, and others leave me genuinely perplexed. I'm going to be zeroing in on the last category in particular, but that doesn't mean the other episodes won't get at least a 1 to 2 sentence recap. Alright, so starting off, episode 13, we see Breaking Boss reveal his purpose to Casshern before aura farming back into the shadows again. Also, Ringo has rust. Not important. Episode 14. Casshern saves Ringo from his evil twin Dio No Brando and Lada's
I want to fuck the
finance.
shit out of that robot, man. I'm not even...
Episode 15, we run into Dune again. No idea how Buddy is still alive. And this is an example of what manic pixie robot dream girls will do to a man. Episode 16, we find out that Ringo was born from a rusting robot womb? It makes no sense, but we'll just call it soft sci-fi for now. It's like soft magic for sci-fi. I don't know. Alright, episode 17 is one of the episodes from the 3 categories that I listed earlier. It's called The Glass Cradle, and it centers around 3 Clanker children that are failed offshoots of their sister Luna. We're shown Lada's past a little bit and given some information that her creator made her, Casshern, and Dio with the purpose of reproduction. And all I can say to that is, why? And we're not just going to end on why, but many other questions as well. Like, why are sex robots the strongest killing machines on the planet? If they're so strong, why couldn't they stop Casshern from causing the ruin? Or, better yet, stop Breaking Boss from killing all the humans in the first place? Why are there only 3 of them? And while we're on that subject, if they're made to reproduce and make offspring with each other, why are there 2 dudes and 1 woman? My hypothesis to half these questions? The creator was freaked out. Occam's razor. But yeah, all that explained and aside, Leda, upon having fond memories of her own children, decides to reminisce by abducting these kids and interrogating them on the whereabouts of Luna, as well as any other secrets they might be harboring. Naturally, Casshern comes to the rescue, and the mute kid decides Ringo is the chosen one for some reason, and they give her a super special piece of ore that has regenerative properties, I think? Okay, so remember this rock. It'll surely have some kind of plot significance later on, since they're making a point to show it to us now. Alright, moving on to the next episode.
You think this is funny?
In a cosmic sort of way, yes.
Well, Mr. Funny Man, is this how you get your sick kicks?
What? It's just an ordinary crabby... Oh my goodness!
Oh my god. Liuze, why the fuck are you naked? Oh, okay. What? But I thought... Okay, so this episode just kind of happens to you. I'm not really sure what else to say about it. Episode 18 is just another version of episode 4 with Sofita. They probably thought we'd forget or something. I don't know. The biggest difference being Liuze also gets her ass kicked this time, instead of just Casshern. Now, for the last 5 episodes, we're really going to start to zero in on the main plot involving Luna, or Luna's grifting doppelganger. I really should have paid more attention, honestly. We're told pretty early on that Casshern killed Luna and that's what caused the ruin, but that's only half of it. The life-giving Luna that we know at the beginning of the series was the good savior that we hear about throughout the story from other characters. You know, the robots that are hoping to be saved. But the Luna that we have now is actually a reborn version of Luna that actually has no real interest in stopping the ruin, save for a select few individuals she deems worthy of immortality. We also learn that during the assassination, the blood of Casshern and Luna mixed together, granting Casshern immortality for some reason. Yeah, that's basically episode 20. The next 4 wrap up this story in a somewhat satisfying way. So episode 21 has Luna requesting Casshern to stay by her side as her new protector. Sorry, Dune, you were simply too pure for this world. Honestly, he's a real one, and he just kinda dies. Liuze, Ringo, and OG become disillusioned basically immediately after seeing what a fucking monster Luna is. Episode 22, we get to see Leda using her masterful speechcraft and negotiation skills again, i.e. slapping Luna in her shit, to gain Luna's immortality. A little more on that later. Dio, for some strange reason, let's call it warrior pride, refuses Luna's gift. I understand refusing it, but he's not supposed to know that yet. Which actually kind of makes Dio pretty stoic and badass in retrospect. Very Vegeta-coded. Alright, and then we cut back to Leda finding out firsthand that all that glitters is certainly not gold. The gold in this case being immortal beauty. Episode 23 is actually an excellent episode that I feel encapsulates a lot of what I love about this show from an action perspective. It all ultimately ends with Dio getting the satisfaction of knowing that he always held the capacity to defeat someone that he always secretly believed was his better, and letting go of the insecurities that come with that. Casshern also gets something out of this fight. He comes to terms with the nature of his conception as a killing machine, and through his defeat to Dio, ultimately realizes that no matter what his creator intended for him, his life is his very own to live from this moment forward. Also, Leda crashes out, which causes Luna to crash out, causing Casshern to step in and ultimately save his sister. You think about it. I think what makes this episode so beautiful is that it really wraps up Dio and Leda's arcs. Once we see them both eventually get to the end of whatever goals they each had as individuals, the only thing that matters at the end of the day is each other. Is the other one. Dio makes it a point after his fight with Casshern to make sure that Leda's taken care of, and upon hearing this, Leda immediately rushes to his side. They aren't killing machines, they were made for each other. In the end, we see how full of dog shit Luna really is, and she links up with Breaking Boss's aura farming ass, and we get to our finale. Episode 24 really comes full circle. We see Luna and Breaking Boss slowly turn into despots, realizing that this kingdom idea they had wasn't really all they thought it would be. Meanwhile, the gang decides to live a more peaceful life. And by the time we cut back to them, it seems like they've been existing happily for some time. Oji reflects on his time spent with Ringo on the road, and Liuze reflects on the time when she hated Casshern, and even regrets wanting to kill him. Eventually though, both Oji and Liuze reflect with joy upon the lives that they've led up to this point, and unfortunately pass away. On the same day, no less. After all this, Casshern decides to go on a rampage and starts dropping bars. Breaking Boss and Casshern get into it, which eventually leads to Breaking Boss getting an ass whooping, whereupon he attempts to ask Casshern to kill Luna, and again, I'm just thinking, buddy, can you please sit the fuck down somewhere and shut the fuck up? Like, god damn, you've atoned for your sins? Buddy, you spent half the series marching to find Luna because you were terrified of the world that you created, and you spent the other half aura farming. After all is said and done, Casshern pulls up on Luna and tells her that he's the Grim Reaper now, basically. So she better watch her back, because he's immortal now and effectively the strongest person on the planet, so, the classic happy ending. However, it wouldn't be complete without a quick outro from adult Ringo about the sanctity of mortality. Oh, remember that stone from those kids? What was its ultimate significance in the end? Its ultimate purpose? Who fucking knows? Kick rocks, loser, because the show is over. Anyone's guess is as good as mine at this point. We see some final shots of Ringo and Frender, and the credits roll.
How long will it take to find a way out?
Now, I'm not too sure what I can say about the cast that I haven't already said, so I'm just gonna rank my top 5. Alright, so at number 5 we have Breaking Boss. I know most of what's awful about this world can be linked back to him directly, but he is very swaggy, and he does put that shit on in the last episode. Piccolo would be very proud. Number 4 is Ringo. She can be really annoying sometimes, but she's also the only character that actually has light behind her eyes and shows genuine kindness in the beginning of the series, so. Number 3 is Casshern. I know he should probably be higher because he's the MC or whatever, but he can be really indecisive, and that just kind of sours me to him in some parts. Like, I understand learning about the world and yourself along the way can be stressful, but I feel like a decent percentage of his problems throughout the series are just a result of, his own hubris or lack thereof. Not to say a lot of shit doesn't just happen to him, because it absolutely does. Number 2 is Margot from episode 12. This character is responsible for the best episode in the series. They have a beautiful soul, and that's about all I care to say about it. Number 1 is Frender. Nobody should be surprised by this. Frender is a dope-looking robot dog that's virtually indestructible, extremely loyal, and an all-around great time, honestly, whenever he's on screen. It's not surprising to me that he's one of the last characters we actually see on screen in the series. Frender is truly built different. Casshern Sins has themes of mortality, guilt and redemption, hope and despair, and identity and purpose. At least that's what the Google AI search bar is telling me. But if I had to seriously identify the theme that stuck out to me, it'd have to be the transient nature of what it means to be alive in the first place. The finitude that we all experience, robot and human alike. The very thought of death can be arresting to most, as we see throughout the series and even in our own lives sometimes. A central theme in the show is rising above this fear and living our lives anyway. Seneca says in his Epistles that the mind will never strive for virtue if it thinks death is an evil thing. We see this in characters like Luna, and we see the actual decimation and ruin that comes as a result of defying the natural order. Death can be a beautiful thing. It's the only thing that gives life any meaning at all. So this is a timeless banger I've been waiting to do for a couple of months now. 2025 has been a really rough year for everyone, and loss seems to be the only thing in abundance some days. I wanted to reflect on this series and its post-apocalypse specifically, because I feel like there's a real emphasis on what you do after the world seemingly crumbles all around you, and the journey to find meaning in decay, and life after death. Thank you yet again for tuning into another Indifferent Take. We're with you, we love you, and we'll see you later. Peace.